And before we get going, we'll go, Bailey, to the next slide, please. Just some really exciting LSC housekeeping. The most exciting is actually that you all will get to meet Emily Stanford, our brand new, well, 1 month in, Director of Advancement, who will talk to you next. That's not on here since you'll actually get to meet her. But some other housekeeping tidbits. Our Impact Breakfast is coming up in May on the 23rd. Really excited to have a panel of speakers from our nonprofit cohort who will be discussing the theme of what will it take? What will it actually take for all of us to lift kids out of poverty, improve the education system, really diversify our sector, all that fun stuff. So if your company is not yet involved and they would like to be, which I'm sure everyone would like to be, you please reach out to Emily or me or Sarah, and we'll help you figure out how to do that. So really looking forward to it. We're going to be, it'll be hybrid, so we'll get to be in this room hopefully with a lot of you. The next big piece of news is Life Science Cares today publicly announced a new partnership with Mass Bioed for a program we're calling Compass Collaborative. It is a platform to increase access and diversity to our industry by supporting both youth and adult learners as they navigate career pathways into our industry. Bailey will drop the press release in the chat. We also have it on our socials. So please check it out, spread within your networks, get folks to sign up, lots of fun ways to get your team involved in workforce development focused, career focused opportunities. Really excited about that. The next point, if you have not seen our newsletter, our April newsletter, which came out on Friday, Bailey will pop a link to that in the chat. But in the newsletter, we also revealed Spring into Action. So our spring campaign is live, ready to be shared. The flyer is printable. So if you do have an office and somewhere where you hang up public notices, feel free to print that and hang it up. Otherwise, share on your intranet, share with your teams widely so everyone knows how they can get involved individually with their teams. And of course, everyone on the call, please reach out to us if you're ready to start thinking about your spring and summer engagements for your team. With days of service, as you all know, the more lead time we have, the better. As part of us getting back into the world and seeing you all, we're also starting to host monthly Life Science Care Shift. Our last one was at Food for Free. Our next one is coming up at the Food Project on April 26th. That's a if you would like to join us, just shoot Bailey a note. We still need at least 7 volunteers. So we would love to see some of you out there, and we'll be working up the farm. So it'll be a really fun one, putting in some equity in this shift. Another reminder to take our volunteer hours pledge for the year. It's not too late. It's only April, which is National Volunteer Month. So if you or your team haven't made the pledge yet and you would like to sign up, we can help you stay on track. You can win a trophy. It's all for fun, but we're still doing that. And then as it is, oh, this says nominate a START volunteer. It should be STAR, but maybe they're STAR because they've started some programs. But if you want anyone to be publicly shouted out on your team over the month, also let me or Bailey know so we can shout them out on our socials. Finally, our last update is that our next roundtable will be in June. We are planning it to be in person. The exact date, time, and location are TBD, so stay tuned. But we will have another guest speaker, Elsa Gomez-Bundlo, CSR professional, really a lead in the area of diversity, equity, inclusion, corporate volunteerism, and all that good stuff will be there. Since we'll be in person for the first time, we're planning for this one to be much heavier on networking, socializing, and so the talk will be more TED Talk style, so 10-15 minutes, get our gears turning, and then it will really be a chance for us to hang and get to know each other in person. So really excited about that. We'll let you know more details as soon as we have them, of course. So next I'm going to toss it over to Emily so you all can meet her. We'll do a fun icebreaker, and then we will get going with our really incredible guest speaker, Alex Schuman. So Bailey, you can turn off the PowerPoint for now.
Perfect. Hi, everybody. I am so excited that I'm seeing some friendly faces that I have gotten to already meet and know over the past month. But I'm Emily, as Kelly mentioned, a month into Life Science Cares. I am loving it and loving all of you. The amount of corporate partnership and excitement that all of you bring to the table is tremendous. So I'm really excited for this. I cannot wait to hear from Alex, but get to lead us through an icebreaker. And so if you're up for it, what I'd love to have you do is I have written all the names down of folks on the call, and we can just go straight through. And I'd love for you to say your name. You can say the company you're with, and then your favorite cereal. So I'm going to give you like a couple of seconds to think about it. Life Science Cares folks, you guys are going to be up first just to show people how it's done. And it's just, what cereal did it excite you as a kid? Does it still excite you now? Just to get some of our energy moving. And then we'll do 2 other quick questions, but those will just be in the chat for you guys to pop in. So if that works, hang on 1 second. So I'll model it very quickly. Emily Stanford, Life Science Cares. I love a frosted mini wheat and really excited to be here. So quick and simple. If you don't want to come off camera, that is absolutely fine. But I'm just going to go through your name. If I miss your name, please jump in at the end. Kelly, I'm going to toss it to you first.
I'm going to reveal myself as a listener of Pod Save America and let you know that my current favorite is Magic Spoon cereal and the brand or flavor cocoa, chocolate. I like when the milk turns chocolatey.
Awesome. So good. Bailey, over to you.
Hi, Bailey, Life Science Cares, and my favorite cereal is the Trader Joe's Just the Clusters, the almond maple one.
All right. I just realized I should take notes of some delicious cereals. Ife.
Growing up, Rice Krispies was my favorite.
Perfect. And then Sarah.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Sarah McDonald, Life Science Cares. And I will not miss a chance to have candy in a bowl. So did you know that there are Reese's Peanut Butter Puffs is a cereal? So if you haven't seen it, seek it out.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, let's go Karen. And by the way, I say your name wrong. Please correct me, but Karen.
Hi, Karen Hoffman, BioNTech US. And I'm going to go really boring here and say that it's Cheetos. Old standby.
Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. Jessie.
Hi, everyone. Jessie Rennekamp. I work at Agios, and I was actually going to say Cheerios as well, specifically the multi-grain ones. But as a kid, I really liked Lucky Charms, and I'd probably still enjoy them as an adult too.
Good one. Good one. Nicole.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole from Lake Street Advisors. I'm a definite chocolate lover, so I'd have to go with Cocoa Puffs.
Cocoa Puffs, delicious. And Joe.
Joe Chase, partner with Lake Street Advisors. I still enjoy them from time to time. Cinnamon Toast Crunch can't be beat.
Great choice. Megan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Lilly from BioRaft, and my favorite childhood cereal was Captain Crunch.
Ooh. Meredith.
Hi, everybody. Meredith Tierney with Alexion, which recently just merged with AstraZeneca. Right now, I love Cascadian Farms granola, but somebody said Lucky Charms, and it just brought me right back. So gotta second that one too.
Love it. Paul.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Alperin with Black Diamond Therapeutics. I'm with Karen and Jessie, 100% classic yellow box Cheerios. Can't go wrong. I only buy them in the smaller packages though, because if they've been open for like 4 days, they don't taste nearly as good. And so it's a little wasteful, but.
Good tip. Omira?
Omaira Rosenthal. I am a Senior Manager of Employee Experience and People Operations at Valo Health in Boston. And I guess I'm just going to keep echoing the same as others as far as I am also a big Cheerios fan. The Honey Nut Cheerio one is my favorite. As a kid, I'd probably say it was probably would still be my favorite, but I feel like I have to grow up and I can't just keep going with them.
The occasional treat.
The occasional treat, yes.
Ariana.
Hi, I'm Ariana Kirby. I'm from Vistera. And my favorite cereal as a kid and to this day is Lucky Charms. They have one now that's just the marshmallows, but I personally enjoy the other aspects of the cereal as well. So I'm still Lucky Charms, but for people who like the marshmallows, there are alternatives for that as well.
Perfect. I see a Trinity Life Sciences on there. If you want to come off camera and say, great. If not, don't worry. All right, I'll keep going, but chime back in. Alex.
I think I saw Trinity Life Science come off mute.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Trinity, go for it.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Sorry, Alyssa Bates, Crackling Oat Brand. I think echo, so I'm going to go off.
Okay, got it. Totally get it. Thank you, Alyssa. Perfect. Alex, we'll jump to you.
Actually hilarious. I should have gone first because I was going to say Crackling Oat Brand. Although my cereal experience is very different these days for health reasons. I'm now gluten-free and dairy-free. So it makes cereal consumption very different, but back in the days of college dining halls, unlimited cereal, Crackling Oat Bran was the two.
Delish. Heidi.
Hi everyone, my name's Heidi. I'm from Vigil Neuroscience. I'm an HR associate there, and I haven't thought about this in a long time, but my favorite cereal would have to be Cinnamon Toast Crunch. That was my go-to since I was a kid. Yeah.
Good one, Erin.
Hi all, sorry I'm a bit late, just was running from the dentist, always fun.
No problem.
So favorite cereal when I was a kid, it was probably Cinnamon Life and oddly enough Grape Nuts. We were a very low sugar cereal family when I was a kid. So, and there's something about Grape Nuts still. I don't even know if they make them anymore, but those were a classic.
Hey, it's good for those dentist appointments.
I know.
So it's worked out well.
It has.
I think my last one is Julie.
Hi there. Sorry, my video is not functioning. Otherwise, I'd come off and say hi. I'm from Avello Biosciences, and I'm not really a big cereal person these days, but Life cereal was a favorite and Fruity Pebbles.
Oh, nice. Did I miss anybody who needs to come off mute? I think I got it, folks. All right. Then just super quickly in the chat, just would love it if you just want to pop in the chat, like, how are you feeling today? Are you tired? It's Monday. You wish it was the weekend. Are you energized? Are you so pumped? Just want to get a sense of like who we are in the room today. And you can just pop it right in the chat. And I love it. Already so much good chat, cereal chat. Okay, hungry, absolutely. Ready to, okay, good. We got good energy in this room today. Feeling great. I love it. This is so fun digging the sunshine. Okay, well, excellent. So Alex, I think we're teeing you up well. And I think I actually might leave it there because I want to make sure we have enough time to kind of answer all the questions and give Alex enough time because she has done an incredible job on preparing this presentation for us. So with that, I am going to turn over to, but Alex, I'd love to give you a little bit of an intro if that is okay with you. Stolen straight from your LinkedIn, but also I've had the opportunity to chat with Alex a couple times. Just a wonderful person who is specializing in driving long-term corporate sustainability and ESG strategies, ESG reporting, sustainability, communications, philanthropy, volunteerism, workplace mental health, DE&I, working with executive committees and corporate boards. Alex has developed best-in-class corporate sustainability functions and teams. So we are so excited that Alex is here. And I think it's amazing to also highlight that she was named as a Sustainability Leader Award finalist in the inaugural World Sustainability Awards. So we are in the presence of greatness. And with that, Alex, can I turn it over to you?
Yes, awesome. And I think you guys were going to share the slides, right? There we go. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you for that introduction. Way too kind. I will say that I generally just do audio, so please forgive me. As I said before, health reasons have kind of caused me to adjust some certain ways of working and eating. And one of those things is that I don't use the video. It actually gives me motion sickness. So one of the things that's super helpful for me when I give presentations, because I can't pick up on your body language, is if you guys could take advantage, and I see that some of you already have, of the reaction buttons, right? So we got, thumbs up, the heart, you can even choose an alien, whatever is best for you. But I would really appreciate as we go through and I just, check in with folks. Thank you. See a lot of thumbs up. And I'll also ask questions of you guys. Other thing is that I will try my best to keep my eye on the chat as well, so that we can have this be, as Kelly mentioned, a really interactive conversation. All right. And Kelly, just so that I am making sure that I am on time, do we want to end at a certain time to leave sort of closing remarks or anything like that? I just want to make sure that I'm staying on schedule.
Yeah, so I put in the chat, and I'll reiterate here again. As we're doing this session a little bit differently, instead of breakout rooms, we are thinking of it more as a discussion. So as you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, raise your hand, use those reactions, get Alex's attention. But please feel empowered to ask questions. And then why don't we leave, if we could leave around 7 to 10 minutes at the end, we'll be able to also circle back with questions. But yeah, if everyone could be ready to be engaged, that would be awesome.
Okay, cool. So I will try to keep this to just a little bit under a half an hour, which should be totally fine. And again, that half hour is baking in questions. Please ask them, or comments. All right, so before we get started here, just to do a little bit of a temperature check, and I think that I know what I'm going to see here, but has everyone heard of the term corporate sustainability before? Give a thumbs up if you've heard of the term corporate sustainability. Okay, awesome. Lots of thumbs up, lots of reactions. Okay, great. So the right place. We're going to talk about corporate sustainability today. Before we get into that, and we can go to the next slide here, I thought I would add a little bit of color to the amazing intro that was provided before, to give you a little bit of an idea of who this person is with a lobster in front of their face and who is not going on camera, right? So I'm Alex. I head corporate sustainability at Schrödinger, but we can start a little bit about just me personally. I live in Boston with my wife, who you'll see in the middle picture here, and our 2 cats, which I think you'll be able to tell which ones those are in the pictures here. I grew up in Boston, and I tried to give you a little bit of proof of that with some lovely childhood modeling photos, modeling for our own our own albums, no one else's, with the Make Way for Ducklings, which I'm assuming folks are familiar with. So that's me. That's me over there. I should probably recreate those photos at some point. In my spare time, I really enjoy trying new restaurants. I really enjoy exploring Boston. And I also play guitar. And so I sing, write songs, and often cover songs that generally folks wouldn't expect to hear on guitar. And so for a period of time, back in the day, I was playing a monthly gig at a bar in Jamaica Plain, which was super fun. So that's just a little bit about me. Now, from a professional standpoint, undergrad, I went to Tufts University. I clearly, I grew up in Boston and I couldn't get away. So went to Tufts, which is in like on the Medford Somerville line in Boston. My first job out of Tufts, and I'm talking about this a little bit because oftentimes folks are really curious about how does someone get into the field of corporate sustainability or of environmental social governance, those sorts of things. Me, I wish I had, a really targeted answer. Was a bit of luck, being in the right place at the right time and being proactive. When I was in school, at first I wanted to be a vet. Then I decided I wanted to be a doctor and work on people. Then I tried to take chemistry 2 and realized that none of that was in my future. So after a bit of soul searching, I landed on being a psychology major. And when I graduated, what I knew was, shocking, I wanted to stay in Boston. And so I was lucky to get a job at Boston Scientific, which is a medical device company. And in the beginning, my role wasn't related really to corporate sustainability, but I was, again, like I mentioned, sort of at the right place in the right time, where they needed someone to help them create a form for hospitals who are applying for funding for galas, right? This sort of thing still happens, but at that point, it was sort of one of the only aspects of the giving program. And so I helped to create that form. It sort of blossomed into thinking about charitable donations more widely at the company. And then while I was there, it grew even more into helping them to build corporate citizenship as a function at the organization. So it was that tiny crack in the door. I realized, this is something that feels good to work on, and turns out I'm pretty good at it. So I realized quickly, though, if I was going to be able to excel in this space, I was going to need to know how a business worked, because as I mentioned before, I didn't really take any business classes in college. I had never taken a finance class. I'd never taken an accounting class. And I knew that in order to really understand how a business would be able to create value, I needed to know what questions to ask. And so I ended up getting my MBA at night at Babson. During that process, I actually switched jobs. So I went from Boston Scientific to Shire, which is a rare disease company that was acquired by Takeda a few years ago. And so when I was at Shire, I was doing really similar work. There, they called it corporate responsibility. I also, when I was at Shire, was working on some of their corporate brand initiatives, which for me was really helpful because so much of corporate sustainability is storytelling. And having the experience of being integrated into a communications team was very helpful in positioning myself for the future. And so at that point, as I was sort of growing in my career, I finished my MBA. I was lucky enough to get a role at Lexion, where they actually brought me in to create what they are calling corporate social responsibility function for the company. One of my most cherished former colleagues is on the line today, Meredith, and we work together at Alexion, although unfortunately, I ended up leaving Alexion to have my current role at Schrödinger, which is very similar. It is my role here is to create a corporate sustainability function for the company. And I should say that while I was at Alexion, we made just incredible progress. We're able to set up an entire framework, reporting structure. And I was lucky enough to be sponsored to attend a full week of sort of leadership within corporate sustainability at Boston College. So it's important to me, given that this field is evolving so rapidly, to really make sure that my education is also up to date, right? So parallel paths of career development and professional development, which have sort of converged with me at Schrödinger today. So this was Meredith. Oh, it's always a pleasure to be part of these groups and be connected to folks that you've worked with in the past, and hopefully many of us will cross in the future. Before I move forward here, any questions, and again, feel free to raise your hand, any questions of sort of corporate sustainability, career path, or things of the like, or good for us to keep on going? Thumbs up for keep on going, hands raised for any questions. All right, thumbs up, awesome. So we can go to the next slide here. So, all right, we're talking about corporate sustainability. And by the way, we're gonna actually define what that means in a second. But what I wanted to show you is in my current role at Schrödinger, where does corporate sustainability fit in? This, I think, can be very different at different companies. And I think that it depends on the size of the organization. It depends on how long this has been a commitment from the organization, depends on a lot of things. At Schrödinger, corporate sustainability fits in the broader, excuse me, IR and corporate affairs team. So I report directly to our SVP of IR and corporate affairs, who reports into our CEO. This is a sort of common reporting structure as it relates to corporate sustainability. The other place that you'll often find this is just in flat out a communications function. You might find it in HR, you might find it in compliance, or you might find that it reports directly into a CEO via Chief Sustainability Officer. So all companies are different as it comes to governance. A lot of this, I'm sure you guys already know, right? Based on your roles, based on, this group, what you focus on. But just to give you a little bit of sense, a little bit of sort of where I'm coming from in my current role, this is how our team currently works. So we can go over to the next slide here. Now, I also have a number of things that I say all the time, which either you've heard before if we've worked together, or you'll probably hear me say 5 times during our conversation today. And so I wanted to give you a fair warning of where I'm a broken record, all right? So I think when we really distill down what corporate sustainability means, it's all about creating the most value for the most people with every decision made. So that's always my North Star when I'm thinking about making decisions for my function, when I'm thinking about providing guidance or advice or counseling other chief officers at an organization or other key decision makers. And is really my philosophy as I sort of pursue this industry. I also think, and again, telling you guys things you already know, right? Good business is good business, right? Good business is good business. It is not a thing for an organization to produce in a way that benefits a wide variety of stakeholders, and for your business to be one of those beneficiaries. That means that you can continue to reinvest, you can continue to operate in a sustainable way, and continue to create even better products, whatever those might be, for the people who depend on you most. The next thing I would say is, at Schrödinger specifically, I consider us in the business, and I guess I should tell you what we do as a business, as being in the shared value sweet spot. So just from the reactions, can you give me a thumbs up if you've heard of the term shared value as a concept from a sort of quote unquote business point of view, shared value? All right, got a bit of a good percentage here, but let me just explain what I mean by that. So if you think about business and you think about society, where are those actions? And this goes in a little bit with the good business is good business piece. Where are those actions going to fall right in the middle of benefiting both your business and society at the same, right? Sometimes those are specific actions within various functions. Sometimes that has to do with, sponsorships of events. I'm making this up, right? But sometimes it's just the nature of your business, right? The nature of your business is that you are going to create products that are going to provide revenue, but at the same time are going to be helping society. Schrödinger is a company that I believe is sort of in that sweet spot, where it's a unique business model where we basically have created a software that allows you to experiment with different molecules very, very quickly. And that can lead to the discovery of new molecules. It can help you see how molecules interact. And that can be leveraged on the life sciences side, right, when it comes to drug discovery and development, completely creates a more efficient and sort of time-saving process for drug development. Or you can think about it on the material science side, which is things like, how can we make tires more environmentally friendly? How can we think about, you know, how airplanes are built so that they're lighter and they consume less fuel? Okay, so the software itself is helping organizations, individuals, whomever is using it, to save time, save money, create less waste, right? So it's in that sweet spot of benefiting both the business and society. Before I move forward, any questions on the things that you see on the slide here, shared value, any comments? Just a thumbs up is good to say, let's keep going. You're going at a good pace. All right, thanks everyone. Okay, great. So let's go to the next slide for a second. All right, what is sustainability? This thing I keep talking about, but haven't actually defined. We can go to the next slide. So to me, there are 3 terms that I think it's really important to align on. Now, historically, corporate social responsibility has been really a catch-all, okay, which I think, and again, this is just my opinion, and I think that you have people that would say that all the terms on this slide actually mean the same exact thing, and I could argue for that as well. But where I see things going is that corporate social responsibility, while still a really important term and concept, is getting a little bit more narrow. People are starting to think about corporate social responsibility as focused really on sort of community outreach and engagement, volunteerism, employee engagement, all really, really important things, but I think is just a part of the 2 other terms you'll see on this slide. Okay, so I'm going to focus ESG and sustainability. Now, I'm assuming here that everyone has heard of ESG. Can you give me a thumbs up if you've seen the acronym ESG before? All right, awesome. So we know that it stands for environmental, social, and governance. Now, I think that the terms ESG, I won't go into it because it looks like everyone is pretty familiar. ESG and corporate sustainability, and by the way, I stick corporate in front of the word sustainability because I think we're still at a place where some people assume if you just say sustainability, you mean the environment. But I think if you put corporate in front of it, it becomes a little bit more clear that you mean the full picture, right? So the 2 terms that I'm going to focus on are ESG and corporate sustainability. We can go over to the next slide. So I've come up with this little metaphor that I call the pie metaphor that helps me explain how the terms ESG and corporate sustainability are related. Because again, you could argue the same thing. From my perspective, they're intimately related, but a little bit different, okay? And so what I would say is ESG, environmental, social, and governance matters, right? Whether we're talking about emissions, waste generation, energy consumption, DEI, philanthropy, volunteer hours, board diversity, executive pay links to ESG, all of those things, that big, huge list of environmental, social, and governance considerations, that's all on the left, okay? Those are all of our ingredients. What's on the right, the fully baked pie, that's corporate sustainability, okay? And my job is to go from our pantry full of ingredients to an amazing, delicious corporate sustainability pie, right? And so what I'm doing right now, and what I would imagine that others are doing as they start to think about creating corporate sustainability functions, or whatever the nomenclature might be, is taking the company's pantry. What ingredients do we already have? What ingredients do we need right away in order to just make a pie in general? And then once we've got those fundamentals in play, how can we make this even better? What are our opportunities for new ingredients and for new considerations? Okay, so ESG to me are the ingredients for a corporate sustainability pie. Does that make sense to everyone? Any questions on sort of how I see ESG and corporate sustainability as different, but very, very closely related? Make sense? All right, cool. So with that, I see Emily, you've got a question.
Yeah, sorry for all of the things that I just did. I was just trying to raise my hand. My question would be, are you hearing the word corporate sustainability more and more often? This is one of the first times I'm loving the way you're describing it, but one of the first times I'm hearing it. Do you think corporate sustainability is going to be like what people call their teams and stuff, or you think it's still going to be kind of a messy middle of the way a lot of people are calling all their teams different things?
I think that it's a great question. I think right now, in a lot of ways, a lot of the ESG world is a bit of the Wild West, whether it's nomenclature, whether it's sort of the evaluation of companies' performance on ESG matters. It's kind of a, pick where you think it's going and then hope for the best, right? Or, you pick something and then you reevaluate a few years down the line, right? And you can change it. I think that when you're talking about the whole pie, right, like ESG together, then corporate sustainability is where it's headed. That's my opinion.
Cool.
If you're just talking about the S, right, in the ESG social part, that's where corporate social responsibility comes in. So I don't think that it is going away, but I think it's more, in my opinion, becoming a subset of corporate sustainability. And because there's so much language out there, it's kind of confusing to use more than one of those terms within your organization, right? So my recommendation would be pick one and sort of stick with it. But that CSR isn't, it's not a term that's completely off the map, right? I think it just represents a smaller piece of the pie than it used to. Now, when I was at Alexion, I was head of corporate social responsibility, right? That's the way that the nomenclature was really being presented at the time. Now, 5 years later, we're in a little bit of a different space. So this is how I see it evolving. Other people have different opinions. I don't think that it's wrong to say CSR. I think that the reason why I dedicate so much time in aligning on definitions is because some people can use the same word to mean different things. And I want to make sure, as I'm having these conversations, I'm on the same page with everyone that I'm engaged with, so that we're all headed in the same direction.
So helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions? And Jesse, I appreciate your chat there. Exactly with this metaphor here, right? Like, what are our opportunities to think about? And if you switch back from the grocery list to actual things, what are the policies that we could add that are value add? What are the sort of commitments that we could make to bake into a policy that could advance our programs? What are the XYZ initiatives that could make this even more, I'm going to say delicious, but it kind of sounds weird, but you know what I mean. So I appreciate the validation there that this is resonating. Any other questions? All right. So let's move on to the next piece here, which is actually the closing. I think we're really good on time here. So I thought what would be helpful as I wrap up here is to sort of help you guys understand, all right, she's been hired to create a corporate sustainability function. You don't just wave a magic wand. How does that actually happen, right? So we can go to the next slide. So I think that regardless of whatever organization you're at, there are very similar steps to create a corporate sustainability strategy, function, whatever you want to call it, but the output of these things should be very different. So this is sort of, and then again, it's goes back to the pie metaphor, right? You've got a list of ingredients, but each chef might come up with a different pie, okay? So how do I go about thinking of how to approach this huge, big task of creating a corporate sustainability strategy or function. So first step, hire someone to do it, right? Check, I'm here, I'm talking to you guys, right? The next thing, and what I think is absolutely critical for any sort of corporate sustainability function, is to do a sustainability materiality assessment. This could say corporate sustainability materiality assessment, but then my slide wouldn't look as pretty because it would be all the way over to the right. All right. So corporate sustainability materiality assessment. And let me just get a good sense from the here. Thumbs up if you've heard of a materiality assessment before as it relates to what we're talking about today. All right, so we've got a mix of yeses and nos. So let me quickly just explain what a materiality assessment is here. The reason that you do a materiality assessment is to understand what are actually the material ESG issues, right? Environmental, social, governance issues that are going to impact your business and stakeholders, right? You shouldn't just go out there and say, we will create a corporate sustainability function and let's guess about what's important. Okay. What you want to make sure that you're doing is a really methodic and data-driven approach to understand where can we make the most impact and what are the things that can potentially impact us the most as it relates to environmental, social, and governance. So you'll see this little sort of map bottom here around material topics and internal and external. And so a materiality assessment, and by the way, if you Google corporate sustainability materiality assessment or CSR materiality assessment, a ton of information on this topic. So it's something that is become very, very standardized. But what it helps you do is through internal interviews, through external interviews, potentially through surveys, you get an output of what's called a materiality matrix. Okay, and again, data-driven, methodic approach so that you don't say, we just guess, we're just trying to check the boxes, that say these issues, let's say it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. How much can focusing on this impact our business? And how much can us focusing on this impact our stakeholders? And through these conversations, you'll start to understand what are the top issues. As we think about life sciences, is it going to be pricing? Is it going to be quality? Is it going to be compliance, right? So you want to make sure that you go through this exercise to really understand what are the top material ESG issues that relate to your organization in particular, right? Part of that is going to involve understanding what is the sort of quote unquote good work that's already going on across the organization, right? You can start to map once you get those material topics. Where are we already doing this? Where do we need to sort of close some gaps, right? And that materiality assessment to me is the core of this long-term scalable ESG framework that is going to be the anchor for your sustainability function. Okay, so you can't, I truly believe you cannot have a thoughtful corporate sustainability function or strategy unless you've done a materiality assessment first. And by the way, you're going to want to refresh that every 3 to 5 years, right? Because things can change. Think of DEI or social justice, United States, for an example, that has just shot up in terms of importance to stakeholders. Should it have been that high originally? That's another question, another, conversation. But just in terms of where expectations are now, right? Companies taking a political stand. These things change very, very quickly. So it's important that you're working off of current research, okay? I also think that it's really important to create a steering committee of folks across the organization who are leaders and decision makers, where their voices are part of the philosophy moving forward. Because as a person who heads up corporate sustainability or whatever you want to call it, you're not going to be executing on everything you're responsible for reporting. But you want to make sure that there's a two-way conversation between those key stakeholders, whether it be the head of environmental sustainability, whether it be the head of compliance, whether it be the head of HR, right? So having all of those key people at the table with you as you create your strategy and as you execute on it are going to be absolutely critical so that you can have consistency and maximize your impact across your organization. And quickly, just to wrap on this slide, thinking about our time here, is that you're going to want to make sure that you have an infrastructure to be able to capture your impact, tell your story, and grow in the future. And so I think that especially nowadays, reporting and transparency and disclosures are a huge, huge part of corporate sustainability. And of course, you can't report on things that you're not tracking or you're not doing, right? So you might have to work a little bit backwards to say, okay, we want to be able to disclose, you know, the amount that we are, I'm making this up, okay? The amount that we are investing in learning and development for each of our employees, right? But before we're able to do that, do we have the systems in place to actually do that? Okay. And so making sure you're doing that all up front is going to be really helpful so that you can have that consistent infrastructure. It's an efficient process, and you're not trying to sort of fill in the cracks as you go. So let me pause there because I know we wanted to leave about 10 minutes at the end here. I'm happy to go into more detail on any of the items on this slide. I'm happy to answer any questions of things I haven't spoken about. Hopefully this was helpful. It resonated. I know some of it you already knew. Hopefully some of it is new information. And let me pass it back over to Life Science Cares team to see how we can best spend the last 10 minutes together.
Does anyone have any questions, comments, feedback?
So this is Jessie. I thought this was really helpful. Thank you so much. A question I have, so I've heard about materiality assessments. I've even taken a class at the, Boston University has this like ESG CSR type of program. So I kind of know what we try to achieve with the materiality assessment, but when it comes to sort of rubber meets the road, I'm just curious like what the different approaches are that you've taken or that you've seen be successful for actually delivering a solid and kind of actionable materiality assessment?
Yeah, so it's a great question. There are a lot of different ways you can do a materiality assessment, and there are a lot, let me rephrase, at various different scales of investment. Okay, right? So you could do something where you get SurveyMonkey and you provide questions to internal stakeholders and hopefully, I think it's really important, strategic external stakeholders, and you leverage that SurveyMonkey data to, create your sustainability materiality matrix, right? Or you can go all the way to engaging an external agency that specializes in materiality assessments, who will do very in-depth strategic interviews with the highest levels of leaders across the organization. They will engage with those external parties on your behalf. They will do benchmarking, which I didn't mention, but is also, I think, an important part of a materiality assessment. So I think that there are a lot of different approaches. I personally believe that making the investment in working with a third party, like a agency or another vendor who establishes materiality assessments is valuable, because again, it's the cornerstone for the entire program. So I personally have always worked with a third party to help do a materiality assessment. However, if you're in an organization where you are, really restricted in your resources in a way that you have absolutely no other options, there are ways to do it at a lower cost. It's just, again, you are going to get out what you put into it. So the more research you're able to do, the better I think your outcomes are going to be. Does that answer the question?
It does. That's really helpful. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? These are really, really good questions. And by the way, if it's not, your jam to raise your hand during a open session like this, you can always feel free to shoot me a note on LinkedIn. I'm happy to continue the conversation outside of just this meeting. I'm always about sort of sharing the love on this topic.
Alex, can I ask if no one else has a question? I'm wondering, you have such interesting work history and experience of starting programs sort of from scratch. I just wonder if you have a particular anecdote or situation maybe where you had to do some convincing to somebody within your organization or someone on your team to kind of get them to buy into the idea that, for example, employee engagement matters. I was wondering if you could share maybe some ways that you've dealt with some pushback from people that don't buy the inherent value of corporate sustainability or employee engagement or community engagement, like everyone on this call I think already does.
Yeah, really good question. So what I will say is that from a broad corporate sustainability and ESG perspective, right? And then I'm going to narrow it more into the community or employee engagement, community outreach piece, is that I think it was a different world a decade ago, right? You had to convince people that spending money in terms of environmental sustainability was important, right? You had to convince of XYZ things, which nowadays are more an expectation given the sort of environment of the general consumer and just the way that our world has moved. Okay, so I think that a decade ago, making a pitch for corporate sustainability is much different than it is now, right? Like people are expecting companies to behave in certain ways and take their business elsewhere or their talent elsewhere if this isn't taken seriously. Okay, so what I'm actually finding now, especially also with the backdrop of within the US, within the EU, within the UK, requirements as it relates to ESG, right? You have to report on this pay data. You have to report on this environmental data, right? Like a lot of companies are now finding themselves really behind because they didn't take the time to invest in this, and now they can't do it quickly enough. Right. So you'll often now find professionals where, you know, the market for corporate sustainability professionals is really hot because there are companies who didn't take this seriously, who now realize they're behind and are just throwing money at it, to be quite honest, to make sure that they can catch up, number one, so that they can be seen from a reputation perspective. But number two, I don't know if you guys have seen, but like the SEC is now coming out with all of these report requirements the companies are going to have to do whether they like it or not, right? So that's one thing. As it relates to sort of the employee engagement, community outreach type piece, I think that the biggest business case here, and by the way, you know, I'm talking to a group of folks that are already experts on this. So this is my personal opinion, and you guys often might be even closer than I am to this work. But one of the areas that I think has been undervalued, but is finally really starting to be understood as critical is the S of ESG. You'll see a lot of communications out there now in this space that is talking about how can we be measuring the S? How can we be taking the S seriously, right? The social part of it. And a lot of it is in the war for talent, right? We are in such a different marketplace now as it relates to individuals really, you know, leaving companies that they don't feel where they can be their best selves, and going to companies because of their culture, going to companies because of, you know, the way that they engage with their communities, going to companies because of how they behave in these certain areas. So I think thinking about it from a talent perspective, and also thinking about how important it is to have actual data as it relates to the S, right? What is the impact that you're making in these communities? How many hours are you volunteering? How many people are you impacting? I know this is the sweet spot, right, for this group, right? And it's just in some areas, you can't even do this quickly enough, right? People understand the importance. Where you do still have to sort of do that convincing, I think thinking about talent, just off the top of my head, is a big one. And then I did see a note here around resources for staying up to date. So I try to sign up for a number of like newsletters to make sure that I have at least headlines in my box, in my inbox every morning. The ones that I really like, and these are more sort of broader corporate sustainability considerations versus just the S, but I really like practicalesg.com. Okay, practical, I'll write it in here, practicalesg.com. I also like Triple Pundit, I think is what it's called, .com. And then 3BL Media, which is part of Triple Pundit. But signing up for those newsletters could be really helpful. And then, of course, you know, it feels like every day there's new certificates in this space. Boston College Center of Corporate Citizenship, I think, is really has a really, really deep connection to the S and has a lot of programs in that area, obviously one of which I participated in. So we're at time here, but that would be my thoughts on that.
Thank you, so helpful. And just for everyone that hasn't quite jumped yet, I took notes of those recs if you didn't get a chance to jot them down. So we can send a follow-up email that includes those links so we can sign up for the newsletters. And Alex, we can be in touch too if there's any other resources that you want to send out to the group after your talk. But thank you everyone so much for attending. Really, Alex, just feel really privileged that we had the opportunity to learn from you and invite you into our conversation. So thank you for taking the time to be so thoughtful with your preparation for this, as well as your presentation, just really amazing. And everyone else, please stay tuned. You'll hear from us more about our June session, but thank you everyone. Just such a delight having you all together. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks everyone, it was a pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.